Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you all for being here. Earlier this morning, the Democratic members of the House Oversight Committee filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration for withholding documents relating to the Trump Hotel here in Washington, D.C. The Trump administration has refused all of our requests for documents about the Trump Hotel for the better part of this year. They refused to provide basic documents about the hotel's ongoing operations, foreign payments to the hotel, or the reversal of GSA's legal position that President Trump could not be a party to the lease as an elected official. We filed our complaint today in federal district court here in Washington, D.C. under a federal law known as the 7-member statute. This law is specific to the Oversight Committee in the House of Representatives. It provides that any 7 members of our committee may seek documents from a federal agency, and that agency, and I quote, shall produce them, that is, the documents. This is indeed a unique law. It is not merely a regulation or rule, but it is a federal statute. It was passed by both houses of Congress and signed by the President in 1928. It does not apply to any other committee in the House. It does not matter whether the members are Democrats or Republicans, and it is mandatory for the federal agency to comply. Let me make one thing clear about this authority. We sent a previous request under the same statute to the Obama administration, and they fully complied. But now that Donald Trump has been sworn in as President of the United States, his administration has reversed this legal position and refuses to recognize our authority under this 1928 statute. They will not provide the documents, simply refuse to provide them. Under the previous administration, this exact same agency, GSA, explicitly recognized our authority under this exact same statute, the 7-member statute. And they produced documents on this exact same issue, the Trump Hotel. But all that stopped suddenly on January 20th of this year. This is one thing and one thing only that has changed in this case. President Trump is now sitting in the Oval Office, and it is his hotel. We regret that we have to go to court, we really do, to obtain these basic documents which are clearly within our committee's jurisdiction. We would not be here if Chairman Gowdy and his Republican colleagues would simply do their jobs and join us. They have refused to join us in requesting these documents about the Trump Hotel. All Congressman Chavis and our former chairman ever requested was a copy of the lease, but nothing about the operation or its enforcement. In my opinion, House Republicans are aiding and abetting President Trump's ongoing abuses. Republicans are essentially walling off President Trump from credible congressional oversight, which is our job, which we are sworn to do. They have refused to subpoena the White House for Michael Flynn's Russia contacts. They have refused to subpoena the White House for documents about the use of private email by the president's top aides. They have refused to request even a single report about Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, the fact that they relocated or reported to have relocated their email accounts to the Trump organization after they took senior positions at the White House and after our committee told them not to do so. Asked them not to do so. Reportedly, they then relocate them to the Trump organization run by the Trump brothers. In this specific case, the lease for the hotel explicitly prohibits, and I quote, elected official of the government of the United States from taking or sharing in any benefit that, quote, may arise from the lease. Yet, President Trump refused to divest his financial interests in the hotel before he was sworn in, as both Republican and Democratic experts recommended. He continues to serve as both the landlord and he's also the tenant. And he has the power to hire and fire the head of the agency responsible for administering the lease. We have no transparency, no ability to check for ongoing conflicts of interest or unconstitutional foreign payments. Let me conclude by saying this. The lawsuit is not just about a hotel in Washington, D.C. This is about the president defying a federal statute and denying our ability as members of Congress to fulfill our constitutional duty to serve as a check on the executive branch. We're simply better than that. We're a better nation than that. We are better. Our nation was founded on the proposition that our leader should never use the office of the presidency to enrich himself financially. Our Constitution was drafted to explicitly prohibit the president from accepting foreign payments without consent of Congress, which he does not have. This hotel is not just a building with Donald Trump's name on it. It is a glaring symbol of the Trump administration's lack of accountability and a daily reminder of the refusal of Republicans in Congress to do their job to help us hold them accountable. This may be standard operating procedure in foreign countries, but not here, not in America. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce my colleague. And I want to thank all my colleagues who are joining in on this suit. And I introduce them my colleague, Ms. Maloney from New York.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all my colleagues. I've been on this committee since I first came to Congress, and I know how important our oversight authority is. And that's what makes this administration's total disregard of our responsibilities on the committee, why it's so disturbing to all of us. The seven-member rule is a federal statute. The rule has been on the books. It's been in place since 1928 to ensure that our committee can carry out our oversight responsibilities regardless of who is the majority in Congress and regardless of who is in the White House, Republican or Democrat. This is what checks and balances is all about. The GSA insists on stonewalling our legal and legitimate requests for documents, and we are determined to fight them on this, and that is why we are going to court. I am proud to stand with my colleagues. We are united and determined to make sure that our committee fulfills its oversight duties to the American people. Given everything that's going on under this Trump administration, we need this law more than ever. Thank you.
Now we'll hear from Ms. Norton.
Thank you very much. The Trump Hotel sits on federal land. We're here to demand federal oversight. This is a priceless property that was a historic post office, vastly undervalued. I sponsored the bill to allow the GSA to rehabilitate this property, and it was signed by President Obama in 2008. It required the GSA to compete the property to produce the highest value for the federal government. The Trump organization won the lease in a fair competition, and the reason they were able to win it is because the GSA required the developer to agree to put millions of dollars into the building in order to maintain its historic authenticity, which in itself is very important, is very expensive, and adds to the cost of rehabilitation. The point of this hotel, as far as the federal government is concerned, and remember who owns the land, is to raise revenue for the federal government. Our committee is obligated to do oversight to ensure that the Trump organization lives up to its contract in all its particulars. So far, the Republicans have blocked the committee from doing the required oversight. Oversight now is being provided solely by litigation. The District of Columbia has sued the Trump organization under the section of the lease that says no elected official of the government of the United States shall be admitted any share or part of this case or any benefit that may arise therefrom. In short, you can't benefit from the receipts to the government of this hotel if you have any interest in the hotel. The District of Columbia has sued under the acceptance of presents, which is another word for emoluments, to the Trump organization, and alleged that competitive injury is being felt by the Washington Convention Center, the D.C. Army, and the Carnegie Library, where the District of Columbia competes to hold events with the Trump Hotel. Next, you will hear from my colleague from Massachusetts, Representative Lynch.
Thank you. Thank you. Steve Lynch from the 8th Congressional District in Massachusetts. I want to thank Ranking Member Cummings for his leadership and all of my colleagues here standing up for the general public in getting as much information as we can. Mind you, the President was cautioned early on in the transition period for his administration that he could possibly venture outside the law if he chose to operate and improperly profit from a hotel down the street from the White House under a federal lease. This is not complicated stuff. The administration was forewarned a year ago that we would be looking at this. And now the administration is blocking the oversight function of Congress, and truthfully, it really shouldn't be this difficult. We are looking for reassurances that the President is operating within the law. This is our job. We're looking for the truth, not the Republican truth or the Democratic truth. We're looking for the simple truth. Congress has a lot of other things that we could be doing right now. But this case reflects an important principle that we think cannot be ignored. And that is simply that the President of the United States is not above the law. He is not above the law. And even though this may be a real estate deal, it is still embodied and supported by statute. It's federal property. So I want to thank my colleagues for insisting that the law be followed. And again, I join my Democratic colleagues in asking our Republican colleagues to step up and do their job. Thank you. Now we'll hear from my colleague from North Virginia, Jerry Conley.
Thank you all for coming out here today, and thank you, Elijah Cummings, for organizing all of us. Look, this isn't some petty dispute between Democrats and Republicans or between our committee and the White House. The Republic of the United States stands at a perilous moment. Are we a nation of laws or not? Does accountability go all the way to the top, or does it stop there? We are the committee of jurisdiction that holds the chief executive accountable. By law, we have a right, not a privilege, when 7 of us sign a request to get the documents in question. The White House is thumbing its nose at that law, not just that request. No republic can withstand that kind of challenge, that kind of impunity of ignoring the laws of the land. We have reason to be concerned about conflicts of interest. The Trump empire is a far-flung empire. He has interests in Turkey. Does that affect his relationship with President Erdogan? He has interest in the Philippines. Does that affect relationships with the authoritarian Duterte, their president? But closer to home, surely, we can ascertain whether the conflicts are real or illusory. Whether we have reason to be concerned that especially foreign influences are trying to buy favor by renting rooms, conference rooms, events at that hotel, which is federal property. The stakes are very high, and we're going to fight and we're going to prevail in the courts of law, absent White House cooperation. Thank you so much for being here today, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce my colleague from Michigan, Brenda Lawrence.
Thank you. Brenda Lawrence from Michigan, the 14th District. This is about the law. A law that says 7 members of the Oversight Committee can request essential documents from this administration. This is about our responsibility. This administration is not following the law. There is history. Previous administration, Republican and Democratic, have complied. What has changed? The only thing that's changed is the person in the White House and his administration. This administration will not answer our questions or our requests. You know, we don't know how much money, when I say money, it's our taxpayers, how much of their money may be going to the Trump organization. We also don't know what federal agencies are doing to comply with the laws and the regulations of our great country. To do the job that America sent us to Congress to do, we must know what is happening in our country according to our jurisdiction, and this administration must. It's not optional. They must release the documents. It's unfortunate that we're standing here today in a lawsuit to get our administration, who are sworn in to serve and protect this great country, and they're being obstructionists. I join my colleagues, and we will continue to stand for the taxpayers of America and for the people of this great country. At this time, I'm proud to bring forward my colleague, Bonnie Watson-Coleman from New Jersey.
I just want to first thank our ranking member, Mr. Cummings, for being such a leader in this issue. And I want to thank my colleagues for standing here, each and every one of us on this committee. Some of us are not standing here, but we're solidly behind this issue. This democracy is very fragile. And the thing that scares me the most is that there's so much happening every day that we're beginning to think that things are normal when they are not. Now, the minorities don't have very many options to get information and to have accountability. One of those options is this 7-member rule, which is a law. We wouldn't have to be here to do this if our Republican colleagues in Congress would do their job and stand with us. Because everyone in this country has a right to know the answers to the questions we're asking, because everyone has a right to be protected and to ensure that our government is at the highest standards. So I'm grateful to be here at this opportunity to know that we are taking the opportunity that we have, and that is to take this case to the courts, to have the courts to find in favor of what this law stands for, and to compel the GSA and the White House to give us the information that we've requested. And hopefully, when our Republican colleagues recognize that we're not going to stand silently by as they are, that they'll come to their well-being and come and do their job as well, and we won't ever have to go here again. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to my colleague, Mr. Krishnamurthy.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. I didn't baptize that too. No, you did great.
Thank you, Ranking Member Cummings, for your incredible leadership on this and so many issues on our committee. I'm honored to join my colleagues today in this lawsuit we're filing against the General Services Administration. Before I entered Congress, I was a Special Assistant Attorney General and helped to start the Public Integrity Unit in Illinois. In Illinois, we know something about the lack of public integrity. We've had multiple governors go to prison, and so we can spot a lack of public integrity from a mile away. This lawsuit, at bottom, is about bringing public integrity to the government of the United States and to the executive branch. To have public integrity, we have to have accountability. To have accountability, we have to have transparency. And to have transparency, we need the documents. We need the documents. Just as the sun is shining on us today, we need sunlight on the terms of this deal. We need sunlight on the operations of the hotel. We need sunlight to shine on exactly what the heck is going on with this lease at the Trump Hotel. So with that, I want to say thank you for your attention to this incredibly important matter. We must bring public integrity to the government of the United States, the executive branch, and the White House. Ms. Demings is next.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was not scheduled to speak today, but since I am here, I will. Let me just say this. None of us want to be here, but we are about the people's business. Unfortunately, the administration has not left us any other options than to bring this lawsuit on behalf of the American people. For someone who served 27 years as a law enforcement officer, served as the chief of police, are we a nation of laws? You doggone right we are. And in America, everybody counts, but everybody, including the President of the United States, is accountable. And so today, we are not the only people wondering if there is a conflict of interest down at the Trump Hotel. We believe that the majority of the American people are wondering and concerned about the conflict. And so today we are doing what we were sent to Washington, D.C. to do, and that is to hold everybody accountable and to provide the oversight that you demand from us in this country. And so I am glad to stand with my colleagues today. I'm certainly proud to see us doing our job, and I pray that my Republican colleagues will join us. Thank you so very much.
Mr. Raskin.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. I'm Jamie Raskin from the 8th District of Maryland. We are here to announce our lawsuit, whose aim is to get to the bottom of serious allegations of corruption at an important new Washington landmark, the Trump Hotel, which I call the Washington Emolument. We have two serious questions of legal substance to get to the bottom to, and one very important question of process. The first question of legal substance is whether the President Trump and his administration are in violation of Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8 of the Constitution, the Emoluments Clause, which forbids the collection of payments from foreign governments to the president. And if that's taking place at the Trump Hotel, that is unconstitutional, and it is a grave constitutional violation and injury to the American people. The whole purpose of the Emoluments Clause was to make sure that our public officials, starting with the president, but members of Congress on down, all have 100% loyalty to the American people and are not compromised
by loyalty to foreign power. So that's number one. Number two is the alleged breach of the lease, which is written between the U.S. government, the GSA, and the Trump Organization, which explicitly forbids the collection of any money, any financial interest by an elected official in the United States or an elected official in the District of Columbia. If the President of the United States is continuing to collect money under that lease, he is in violation of the lease. And it seemed as if GSA was very clear about that, at least in 2016. They have now turned bizarrely silent on that issue. But we need to get to the bottom of it. That's our job. Now, in order to get to that, we need to collect the documents. And we exercised our statutory rights under the 7-member rule to request documents from the GSA relating to the Trump Hotel's lease. And they have refused to honor that. That is a statutory right for us and a statutory duty and obligation for them, which they are in breach of now. And that's why we're going to court, simply to enforce our rights there. As Mr. Cummings pointed out, we are the only committee in the United States House of Representatives which is empowered to collect documents from executive agencies under the 7-member rule. So this is a very important breach of the separation of powers and a dishonoring of the rights that we have under the 7-member rule. Mr. Cummings, you know, James Madison said that under our Constitution, no man may be a judge of his own cause because his bias will impair his judgment and compromise his ethics, his integrity. This is the situation we're in right now. And I would leave everybody with the words of Tom Paine to think about. Tom Paine said that in the monarchies, the king is law, but in the democracies, the law is king. Who's going to be king here?
Mr. Welch.
Thank you. Just 2 points. One is we are a nation of laws, and we have to enforce the laws. We have checks and balances in government, and that is just completely thrown out the door, completely disregarded if Congress is not allowed to get access to information that it needs. Second, it's kind of an astonishing fact that President Trump, billionaire that he brags about being, wants to make a little extra money selling $40 martinis and $100 steaks at Trump Tower. And folks who go there and pay that price for those drinks and that price for those steaks, a lot of them are trying to edge up and get close to the president. That's just obvious, and we don't even need an investigation to know how that works. But what we do know and need to get the facts on is that money is being made and that lease is in violation of the GSA regulations. So let's get to the bottom of this question and find out what's in it for President Trump. Thank you.
That's okay, Mr. Welch. I'm Congressman Mark Tassonier from Northern California. I just want to tell you how proud I am to stand here with my colleagues under the principled and tenacious leadership of Elijah Cummings. And to me, this is very simple. As Mr. Cummings said, this is a law that was passed in 1928. Calvin Coolidge was President of the United States. It's here for this purpose. Although I would prefer, as my colleagues have said, to be here with our Republican colleagues, this law was created for this kind of situation. And this committee is required to do its due diligence. So what we're looking for is the facts. We're not looking for a fight, we're looking for the facts. And then let the Congress, the committee, the Congress, and the American people judge for themselves whether there's something amiss here. And the courts will decide that as well. The other unfortunate thing is that the administration is not working with us and clearly is trying to avoid its statutory responsibility. So I would just conclude with, as a simple observation, it seems as if there's nothing to hide, the administration would be working with us. And the sooner they get to that point, the sooner the American people and the American public will see if there's a violation of the contract or the statutes. And with that, I'd like to give it back to the ranking member.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. We are joined today by our lawyer, David Valdek, and I want to introduce David, the attorney who is helping us with this case. He's currently a professor at Georgetown Law School and directs the school's civil litigation clinic. He previously served as the director of the Federal Trade Commission's Bureau of Consumer Protection He is the foremost expert on the 7-member statute. He represented former Oversight Committee Chairman Henry Waxman and other members of the committee when they brought 2 previous challenges under the statute. We'll take a few questions, and Mr. Malevich will be assisting in any questions that might be appropriate for him. Yes.
Yeah, I'm Charlie Clark, the government executive. The Inspector General for GSA, I believe, is looking into this issue. Is that going to help you all, or?
It probably will, but we have our own responsibilities, and we are concerned over and over again how it's become almost impossible for us to get documents from this administration. And so, as all of my colleagues have said, in order for us to do our jobs, we have to have transparency. And so, the IG may be doing their job, but we've got our job to do this also. Yes, sir.
How's this being paid for?
We're providing our service pro bono, and the ethics office and the ethics rules make it clear that we're entitled to do that.
Is it fair to say you'll have standing problems? I know that a district court has ruled in your favor on a similar 7-member case, but courts have looked down upon individual members bringing suit in their individual capacity.
Right. This is different than those kinds of cases. These members are not bringing this as individual members. They're bringing it pursuant to a statute that was passed by both houses of Congress and signed by a president. In that respect, it's unique. There's more of a delegation from Congress to these members than there is to any committee or subcommittee or chairman. So I think that the government will raise standing. They have no defense on the merits. The statute is clear as a bell. It says an executive agency shall provide information when it's requested by 7 members of this committee. So the only defense the government's going to have is they can't sue. And that argument has fallen flat in recent years in the District of Columbia. The Holder case, the Burwell case, the Myers case, the most recent cases decided by this court have all permitted entities of Congress to go ahead and sue. So yes, I think that will be a defense, but I don't think it's a substantial one.
In terms of the foreign emolument issue, what documents, what information are you seeking?
Do you want to take it? So one category of information that was provided to us up until inauguration were some of the income streams going into the hotel. And so we hope that we will be able to figure out what percentage of the revenues that are going into the Trump Hotel are based on, the French embassy or whatever, some other foreign government renting out space, holding events, doing other business with the Trump Hotel.
We're also interested in knowing why the reversal with regard to GSA. We have a lease that says that an elected official can't be a part of this, and I think President Trump is an elected official, but he's a part of it, and then they seem to reverse and say that he still could get the benefits from this hotel. So we want to see, if there's a paper trail there or email trail or whatever, we want to see all of those things to see what happened here. Again, we have to have transparency. There's another thing that is very important. We don't want agencies just to feel that they can just, when Congress asks for documents to do our job, that they can just say, oh, to hell with you. We have to stand up and do what we are sworn to do. And I emphasize that. We're sworn to do this. And so hopefully we'll be able to get to the bottom of it and see what's going on here. All right?
Is your suit specifically against GSA or is it against Mr. Trump?
It's against Mr. Horn, who's the acting administrator of GSA.
What does the timeline look like?
So under the rules, the government will have 60 days to respond. Before then, we can move for judgment, and this case will be decided basically on competing motions, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Thank you all. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.